What is going on, guys? Welcome to this video. We have some new leaks of the upcoming Pocket 3 from DJI, and boy are they coming in hot. I'm going to tell you right here and now that this camera will be the first, in my opinion, that actually rivals the quality of DSLR cameras. I know we had some decent phones around for quite some time, but I personally don't think that they came all that close to an actual cinema camera or DSLR thereof. Yes, the iPhone 15 looks freaking amazing, but still there are instances where it just doesn't. And the reason for that is the small sensor. It cannot cut it. And digital image processing has come an incredibly long way, but still I personally see weaknesses in many instances. The reason for that is just that it's a digitally processed video and not a mechanically well-looking image that we can achieve with big sensors like on a DSLR, or in this instance a 1-inch sensor on the DJI Pocket 3. I cannot tell you when I've been as excited for an upcoming release. Honestly, I didn't even have the Pocket 2. I was more of the guy that stuck with the action cam format, and I've been around for quite a long time. I can tell you, this is the GoPro from 10 years ago. The Pocket 2 was a little bit awkward, more or less a gimmick in my opinion. I could just use this thing, the stabilization was incredible, you could get amazing quality out of it. If I wanted something real, I would just go with the DSLR. But this is going to be actually incredible. The quality of the Pocket 2 was already looking absolutely fantastic, and if you really knew what you do, you could create some awesome looking quality, especially in low light, which these puppies here cannot really pull off, although the Action 4 does have some pretty decent low light capabilities. But let's not beat around the bush for all that much longer. Let's get into the leaks and check out the photos. And I can tell you, they look absolutely promising. And it's the marketing slides that we have with every upcoming release from DJI. Let's take a look. So first we have the teaser that always comes out a few days before the actual release that teases that there's something big coming. So the indicator is pretty obvious. It is going to be the Pocket 3, but in my opinion the indicator is always obvious, but it's just here to hype things up. And as a side note, I personally think that DJI leaks these things themselves just because people like me are going to get incredibly hyped on them. Fair enough, it is a pretty good marketing tactic, and if it holds some truth and we can all prepare our wallets to get drained once again, more power to you. But for moving moments, the release date is the 25th of October this year, so very soon if you watch this video before that. The next is just the render, and what it indicates is what we all have been expecting at this point: a updated design with a rotatable screen. The reason for that is that this camera will borrow the vertical shooting mode, the true vertical, from the Mini 3 and 4 and bring it to this camera. What this means is you can shoot vertically, have a vertical screen, and record natively the same as you would do with these boys here. And I think that is pretty damn genius. This is just what we all need in this day and age of vertical video. Vertical isn't going to go anywhere, and DJI adapted perfectly to that. We can see that it looks a little more mechanical, a little more bulky as well. It will be larger because of the larger sensor. In my opinion, it borrows a lot from the more professional equipment like the Ronin gimbals and also the DJI 4D. It just has more detail. It's not a uniform body. It's still incredibly sleek, but it's got curvatures, especially where the joystick and the record button is. And it looks, to my eye, incredibly intuitive to use. You can just flip the screen. I tell you, this is going to be super satisfying to do. They will implement some nice mechanical haptic feedback, and what I can tell you is that the camera will automatically change its positioning. No leak has indicated that yet, but I can assure you that this is going to be the case. As soon as you flip the screen vertically, the camera will flip as well. As soon as you flip the screen horizontally, the camera will follow suit. This is so brilliant in my opinion. You don't have to go into any menu. This is so intuitive, and if they don't do that, I mean, we don't even have to talk about this. This thing has been in the making for 3 years. If they do not implement this, what I just told you, then I don't know what the product designers are doing there, but I can assure you this is going to be the case. Incredible, think about it. So easy to use. Flip it vertically, boom, camera orients. I'm just so amazed by that function. But moving on to the actual specs. Now here is where it becomes pretty damn incredible. Now this is just the absolute mic drop. We have the 1-inch sensor with 4K 120 FPS. Honestly, I didn't anticipate that. The 1/1.3 inch from the Mini 3 and 4 Pro and the Mavic Air 3 is already such an amazing looking image that I thought they would just implement these sensors. They probably have a ton of them laying around, and why not uniform everything everything into that sensor size. But as they have not come along with an update for 3 years and will probably not do so for the next 2 to 3 years, we can see that this is the next leap in sensor size for their portable devices. What you can thereof expect is that the next action cams will also have the same sensor. In my opinion, that's likely, and that we have come into the new territory of 1-inch sensors. This is probably the introduction model which will push this new sensor out into the world. This is a leak. It can still not be true, but in my opinion, at this point in time, it is very, very unlikely that this is not the case. Whoa. This overexposed dramatically. And the 120 FPS 4K. Now, we already had these guys here do it. I'm going to be happy about it, especially when I shoot action related stuff, which this camera is just great for. But let's move on. Rotatable screen and horizontal vertical shooting. We already talked about that. Absolutely amazing. This is going to be such a big feature of this camera. The intuitive designs that DJI uses for these cameras is unparalleled, honestly. 3-axis mechanical gimbal stabilization. I mean, I guess we all know what this is about. Active Track 6.0. I guess you can now track things even better. This is where it gets interesting again. Full pixel fast focusing. In case you didn't know, the drone cameras that DJI produce always had a focusing mechanism, so you could actually change the focus mechanically, and they've been doing that very, very well in all their drones. Pocket 2 already had a great autofocus mechanism, and what this means now with this large of a sensor, especially if it's going to be paired with a large aperture lens, is that we are going to achieve this beautiful bokeh that we all came to love in the world of video. As it is mainly a wide angle lens, I think it's going to be a 24mm, something along these lines. It's going to not have the strongest depth of field compared to something like a telephoto lens, but it will be very significant, especially when filming close-up things. Honestly, I think the settings that we are on right now would more or less translate to the depth of field that you would get with a Pocket 3. This is an f4 right now, and we are on 21mm, about a meter away, and this is probably the depth of field you will get, if not even shallower. Yeah, you can expect some serious depth of field that is not produced digitally. I don't know where all this hype about the cinematic mode from the iPhones came from. I personally think it looks like utter trash. If you watch it on a phone screen, yes, it isn't that noticeable, but it looks just so digitally to me. And I might be a snob when it comes to camera quality, but so be it. Real depth of field is something unparalleled yet. And talking about the focal length, that is probably going to be about 24mm. We will see a wide angle lens adapter for this camera. What I have the highest hopes for is that this thing will actually also come with a telephoto lens that you can slap on. We already had the wide angle from the Pocket 2, which allowed you to become a vlogger, just hold it in front of you and, you know, have yourself in view, not having to extend your arm like crazy with a selfie stick. But what I hope this thing would have is a telephoto lens. Let it be 70mm. And I'm telling you, if this guy comes along with a telephoto lens, it will become my main camera for basically everything. The reason for that is obvious. You have a telephoto on a gimbal, stronger depth of field, and you have a telephoto lens. Action cameras are for 95% of the time the best choice for wide angle shots, especially in well-lit environments. Now the Pocket 3 is going to cover the 24mm range, and if it comes out with an additional, let's say 70mm lens, it will put these guys out of business. If you're a purist, please don't get at me with this will not happen. DSLRs are still going to look so much better, and I agree, no doubt about it. But how good does quality actually have to be? 1 inch is, in my opinion, the sweet spot where we can look past the form factor of a camera. I mean, we only really have to look into the world of micro four thirds cameras. I personally started out with the GH5 as my first DSLR, then went over to the GH6, and the look of the image was fantastic. Let me tell you that. I even like it more than the A7S III that I exchanged it for, just when it comes to the image. And the sensor of micro four thirds is almost as small as a 1 inch sensor. So let's stop the debating. 1 inch is so capable. All the camcorders from back in the days had a 1 inch sensor. Of course, full frame, medium format, this is always going to produce the best image quality, and we don't have to argue about that. Still, 80-20 rule, this thing is going to rock. D-Log-M 10-bit. We already had it on these bad boys. The actual question is how much of a dynamic range this sensor is going to be able to output. I can tell you that the Action 4 has some good dynamic range, but if you clip highlights, they are dead. If you underexpose, you cannot recover the blacks, and the noise floor is pretty noticeable. So theoretically, a 1-inch sensor should be able to produce much better dynamic range than even a little bit smaller 1/1/3 of an inch sensor. The reason for that is just theoretically that the pixels could be bigger, they let in more light. Same story with the A7S III. This isn't necessarily the case though, as they might also want to make this a photo-centric camera, which I can imagine they do, so the megapixel count will probably be rather high, not compared to the 12 megapixel on this, which is the absolute sweet spot for 4K video. But we never know, maybe they actually continue and learned a thing or two from Sony and their A7S III, which has been the best camera for I don't know how many years now already. You can argue that, I wouldn't. And yeah, maybe they go the 12 megapixel route and realize that this is plenty enough and low light capabilities are the way to go. Stereo recording, they will put some great mics into this thing. We can expect that. Pocket sized, well, whatever. There we have it. This is all I had to say about the upcoming Pocket 3. I think these leaks are totally legit. Hold on. Am I seeing right? Is that true? This thing is going to include the quick release from the DJI Action series. Have you seen those? Those clips where you can just easily mount it on these quick release things? If I'm not mistaken, then what you can see here at the bottom indicates that it will have the same quick release as the Action series. You can mount this thing anywhere and everywhere. All you need is these freaking mounting ports. And I can tell you that I'm going to strap this thing on a FPV drone. And the reason for that is these drones are amazing when it comes to the maneuvers that you can do. But the camera quality, in this case a DJI O3 or AVATA, whatever you want to call it, it looks good. It has 10-bit, but the sensor is still relatively small, the aperture is small, and the quality that comes out of it, the dynamic range is so-so. It doesn't look professional. For a professional shoot, you have to go the route and actually strap an action cam on top and fly it like this. And with a camera like this, can you imagine the possibilities? You do not need a Mavic anymore. You do not need a Mini 3 Pro. You do not need a Mini 4 Pro thereof. This thing can come on top here. You set the angle that you want, and this bad boy can do whatever it wants, and this guy will just keep its head leveled like a damn chicken, and you will be able to record cinematic standard drone footage with this bad boy here. I was very enticed by the Mini 4 Pro, but this fact actually will keep me from buying it. Just buy this guy, strap it on top, and oh my goodness, you guys don't even know what's about to come up with these possibilities that this camera is here to give all of us. I have not yet been excited like that for any release ever. The AVATA came pretty close, but no. This was a blast to make, honestly. I don't care how much it costs. This camera will frickin' change the game.